Betsy Ann Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. I have no idea what we're talking about. You just said grab the microphone and let me talk.
Sins of omission. Everyone's talking about, on mainstream media, the silly remarks, the sex remarks that were put into the report that Comey gave to Trump once he became, when he was president-elect and thereafter. And the specific meetings that the memos were written about. And what we want to say is, it's not what's in the memos. Those are attempts to continue a coup d'etat, attempts to continue the impeachment group, the Trump operation, the counterintelligence operation started by John Brennan, which we'll go into in just a minute. But when Comey, in those memos, as he describes them, stood before Trump or sat before Trump at dinner, or spoke to him on the phone, and Trump said, why can't you look into this dossier thing you're telling me about this? Oh, it's salacious. It's completely unverified. It doesn't really matter. And so of the 36-page fake dossier, supposedly there were 2 pages given to Trump, but we also have Comey's testimony. He only gave 1 page. And then we have now his memos that show that he only showed 1 page. And that 1 page was simply to say that the Russians may have a video of prostitutes peeing on you in the presidential hotel suite of the finest hotel in Moscow when he was there running the Miss Universe pageant. Well, Trump has now pointed out he didn't spend the night there, and he has proof of that. He didn't have a room, and there were no prostitutes. And so what did Comey omit? Comey omitted that he helped create that dossier. He omitted that Hillary Clinton and John Podesta helped pay for that $12 million dossier paid to Fusion GPS, who then became their political mouthpiece, that then even paid Franklin Furor for the fake Trump Tower server connected to the Russians, and that's in the dossier. You see, from the time that John Brennan, which was, I believe, early in 2016, when they saw Trump was going to be such a threat, they sent John Brennan, the head of the CIA, to meet with Putin and his gang. This has now come out. We said this from the beginning. We said that the whole thing started directly, the dossier was handed over by John Brennan. And if you look at what's in the dossier, it says that a lot of Russian high officials, very high-level officials in the Russian government, were part of giving this information out because they were part of paying Trump and part of the conspiracy. And then there were the Russian oligarchs who run the Alpha Bank that the Franklin for made-up nonsense that was paid for by Comey to say that Trump was being paid by the Russians. All in the dossier, all lies. Why didn't Comey say to the president what he's done to demonstrate the lack of veracity that this salacious document had?
Well, I keep telling you, it's because it was a coup d'etat and they didn't think they were going to get caught. So why would he tell them what they were doing wrong? So, it's only after the fact that you can look and see that he was making stupid plays.
And he was still trying to trick Trump, get Trump to admit things, get Trump to, he was there not as a person working for Donald Trump, even after he was the president. He was there to try to trip him up, to try to continue this attempt, this operation to now impeach a sitting president. Before that, it was to try to keep the president-elect from coming into office, and before that, it was rigging the elections in a mind-boggling way. The 28 treasonous crimes of Comey that we put in an article that you can search at Aim for Truth, you can find that the setup started all the way back in the moment in December of 2015 when they realized at the Democratic National Committee that they had been breached and not a hack. And so it's so funny that now Hillary and her gang is coming out to sue some imaginary Russians who hacked the DNC, and somehow they're connected to Trump. So let's see, is this going to be now the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th attempt to try to pin Trump to some kind of hacking of the DNC, which never happened? So the point is they are so desperate that this lawsuit is now the last ditch attempt that they have to keep the narrative going. It sounds like Mueller's running out of steam, and he's being cornered because he's made so many mistakes that his entire special counsel investigation is a complete joke. And now, to prove what we said, that Comey had many people helping him, not only his little group back at the FBI, James Baker, who he told all of these things that are in the memos, which he's not supposed to. When you have a conversation with the president and you're the FBI director, you don't go back to your Girl Scout gang and then tell that very group of conspirators what was said. No, you don't do that. And you would tell the president that you were, in fact, going after this salacious document instead of, oh, I was one of the ones who signed off on it, Mr. President. I'm the one who actually came up with the idea over a year ago, Mr. President. I was the one who enlisted Carter Page, who is the person that we tried to send to be part of your campaign, and you kicked him out. You even put a personal protection order on him to keep him away from the campaign because Carter Page wouldn't stop coming back saying he was part of the campaign. His name was mentioned once in a document as being an advisor early on. So how did they get, when this started back in early 2016, it wasn't until October that they actually got that Carter Page FISA warrant. Why? Because they had to come up with the lies. They had to set up all the stuff that was going to be in this dossier. We spell it all out in the 28 treasonous crimes of Comey in the order that it happened. And we pointed out that John Brennan was the person, not only with the George Papadopoulos fake entrapment thing that happened in England with Alexander Downer. No, even beyond that, he's the one who literally went to Russia and got some nonsense on Trump that he could get, brought it back, added it to, then gave it to the FBI. And this was said, this is the reason we know this, because John Brennan said he was the one who got chatter, he called it. We received chatter. And then we received, and he had these funny words for it, then we received, intelligence, and then we passed it on to the FBI, and they gave it to Comey, Andrew McCabe, and of course, William Priestap, the person who's in charge of the counterintelligence department of the FBI. And that wasn't the Carter Page, that was the George Papadopoulos FISA request. There's at least three. There was one on Michael Flynn, one on Papadopoulos, and one on Carter Page at least. They were surveilling Trump from every direction. So when Comey stood there, he didn't say, yes, I was part of unmasking you with Susan Rice. Yes, I've stood in this very office, or I've sat with the President Obama, and we discussed that I was going to write an op-ed against you for the New York Times in early 2016, and they told me I was stupid. So then I created this whole plan. John Brennan and I got together. We sent someone to Russia. We got our Russian agents. Carter Page was a FBI agent. He was an informant working against the Russians. We all know that because of numerous lawsuits. He got a guy named, he got the whole Russian, what's her name? Vissel Kanaya, or whatever her name is, the Russian lawyer, to set up the meeting at Trump Towers with Trump Jr., and that was a complete joke. Manafort was in the room, so of course they were recording it because Manafort was also being surveilled. Oh, that was another one. They had surveillance on Manafort from early on, long years before he came into the Trump campaign. So, and Michael Cohen, who's also mentioned in the dossier, they're now going after him. He was never in Prague. And you have Jenny Nulikin, who was there, the person they tried to say was the hacker of the DNC. And they tried to set him up with Michael Cohen being there to receive money from these Russian oligarchs. Never happened. None of that ever happened. Comey should have stood there and said, I haven't investigated any of these things because I have been directing all of these things and I need to go to jail for the rest of my life, Mr. President. But at this point, I'm so invested that all I can do now is get you to fire me. So I'm going to try to trip you up, and I'm going to write down my little, notes, which belong to the government. They don't belong to him. The fact that he put any of that in his book means he committed a crime. The fact that he says anything on the news about any conversation he ever had with the president to anybody, literally, even including his staff, unless it has direct bearing on an investigation, he can't say. Well, there was an investigation. He denied over and over the George Papadopoulos investigation, the Carter Page investigation, the Michael Flynn investigation, the Trump collusion investigation, the FBI investigation of Trump and his dad. Sergei Milian Parachenko, there was an investigation in that he was sent by the CIA, by John Brennan, to Europe to find what they called the PP video. The PP video is real. I've seen it. It is certainly not a nice hotel. It looks like the lowest dive you could possibly be in. These weren't very nice looking hookers, and the person was not Donald Trump. This tape that CIA spent U.S. taxpayer dollars to send Sergei Parochenko, and then later have a Harvard professor try to tell everyone that Sergei died in a plane wreck in Russia. Lie. Well, why doesn't Comey just call in Sergei? Why doesn't Christopher Wray just call him in? He's his asset. He works for the FBI. Hello? And he works for the CIA, just like Christopher Steele works for the FBI and the CIA. They were propaganda ministers. They were the people doing the dirty work, and it's always foreigners, so that then they can have some way of getting out of this. But it went back to John Brennan. So Comey should have said, sorry, Mr. President, I'm not even going to give you this one-page summary, which is about the whores, the hookers, which is all lies and verifiably proven as lies. I'm going to just tell you what's on that page. I'm not going to show you the other page. And on the other page is the fact that we are 100% convinced that you're colluding with Russians through Alpha Bank, because that's what the dossier says. He didn't say any of that. Isn't that interesting? But he continued the investigation to this day, and then he even leaked all those memos to the press so that he could start a special investigation to have his friend Robert Mueller come save his rear.
But the foundation of why they are doing this special counsel is seriously being questioned.
Yes, because so many violations have happened. And now Mueller comes out within the last week and says, oh, by the way, the mainstream media has many false stories.
Yeah, but we realize that what it is that Mueller was in there to run the overthrow of the United States government. When they couldn't get Hillary in to do it, they threw in Mueller. Now, the pretend Mueller in the media is that he's there to do the special counsel thing. But, citizens out here, we know that this is not what it's about. It's about doing an end run of the United States government and the presidency. And they're all senior executive service employees. All you need to do is just look at them, check their names out in the plum book, and you'll see this is the enemy of the United States.
There are two continuing investigations against the President of the United States, where the Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, and, well, particularly those three, the NSA has pulled itself out, and now Dan Coates has made sure that the Office of the Director of National Intelligence is no longer part of this.
Well, is he going to be effective, or are we just looking at another government stooge trying to cover up things? Are we going to see something from Dan Coates?
I think many of the things we're seeing in the press where Trump is now confronting Silicon Valley, he knows that it's fake. He knows that that's the surveillance, and he's getting rid of it. So just keep watching those companies, and as they fall, you'll know that Dan Coates' plan to stop surveillance of Americans is ending, but in a way that doesn't bring it it can't be too bold. It's like when Trump fixed 460 miles of the wall when no one was looking with existing money and with the Army Corps of Engineers, and it really made the people in those states quite happy. They didn't even notice. No one noticed. They don't notice what he's doing. So there's a whole lot of things going on. For instance, what is going on with him and Mueller? Now, because Mueller has attacked his lawyer, he does not have to go before this stupid special counsel. He can decline. He's the president. Anything that he says if there isn't a crime, even if there was a crime, he would not have to testify. And even if he testified, he could plead the fifth, like the time the Iran-Contra scandal, when Ronald Reagan testified, he said 127 times, well, I just don't know. And because he had Alzheimer's, he was telling the truth. But in fact, you don't have to answer. So he doesn't have to go before Mueller now. And all the low-hanging fruit that Mueller's getting makes him look like an idiot. And the guerrilla warfare of Andrew Weissman should disbar him in the end. And the beauty of it is the following. We said Jeff Sessions is crooked. We couldn't prove why. We've proven why now economically, and we're now going to say right now 100%. Anyone who believes that there's a plan with Trump and Sessions and Mueller is stupid. What did Sessions just say? If Trump fires Rosenstein, he quits.
Hey, that's a twofer. I think that's a win for everybody.
Yes, it is. But do you understand what he's saying there? He's saying, I am covering for Rosenstein. If you take him out, I can't continue that investigation because I'm guilty as everyone in it. I participated. I probably got paid off from Uranium One myself personally directly. But if I didn't, I certainly allowed the Russians to come in and take over our uranium market. So Jeff Sessions is 100% complicit. And anyone who thinks that there's some magical plan back there in Mr. Magoo's mind, in Jeff Sessions' mind, you are mistaken. And if you think Michael Horowitz has come to save the day, I want to point something out to you.
Well, point out the obvious about Horowitz. I mean, he's given little bits and pieces, but he's not really doing his job.
In all of the crime that I just described of Comey, it is only now being recommended that Comey possibly be looked into for his leaking. It's the biggest leaking in human history, in front of everyone. And we're now might look into it. Well, that's because Horowitz might look into it. Well, Horowitz, in all of the crime, he didn't fire anyone. He said that McCabe did some naughty things. He didn't have he lacked candor, and he might have leaked something. Well, and then what did he do? Nothing. He recommended it to the Justice Department. That's who Michael Horowitz works.
He's there to move paper around a desk and to keep anybody from going to jail. That's all they're doing up there at the DOJ. There are 500 of them that keep these SES employees protected. I know I interrupted you. Go finish it off.
No, you're right. I mean, that's Bruce Orr is one of those 500.
Right.
Bruce Orr just got moved from one office to the next. He didn't get fired for his collusion with Fusion GPS to rig the election. And this is so nonsense. Comey's standing before Trump and he doesn't mention that he already had his person and Bruce Orr and Nellie Orr and Glenn Simpson from Fusion GPS meet with 5 different mainstream media people and leak this stuff to them continuously in meeting after meeting. Oh, that's right. Oh, and within an hour of him leaving the one meeting with Trump in his office, it was leaked to the press, what he said. And that was coordinated with James Clapper. James Clapper said there were 2 pieces of paper that was supposed to be given to Trump on the dossier. Comey says he only just told him what was on one piece. They didn't even give Trump the 36-page dossier so that his lawyers could work with it. But now, doesn't matter. 1 hour later, after he left and CNN reported and leaked what was said in that meeting, which is a crime, shortly thereafter, within 24 hours, BuzzFeed, who never got in on the indoctrinations that were being given out by FBI representatives, Department of Justice representatives, Fusion GPS to the media. They didn't give them the document. They only told them what was in it over and over and over again. And paid them. And paid the press, by the way. We know this because Fusion GPS paid some of them. BuzzFeed didn't get included. And what was the other? Mother Jones later had to do it on the phone with Christopher Steele. A foreign agent, a criminal foreign agent came and he was there. And he was told by the FBI and the DOJ to give this dossier information out to the mainstream media. Okay, Comey forgot to mention that to the president. And then what happens? Then BuzzFeed, because they weren't included, prints the whole darn thing because they thought it had been broken open by CNN, but they didn't know CNN didn't have a copy. CNN lied and insinuated they had a copy, so BuzzFeed released it and they're being sued. Yahoo News is being sued because Christopher Steele then wrote an article saying, oh yes, it's absolutely true, it's absolutely true. And they said that was good enough to then state that Carter Page really was this horrible person who was going to get billions of dollars from the Russians because he was in league connecting Trump and Putin. Complete nonsense, so he's suing Yahoo News. But remember, Christopher Steele is being sued in America and in London for his dossier by the Russian oligarchs at Alpha Bank, by Alexei Gubarev, another person, well, the person actually specifically named as the person who hacked the DNC. He's suing him. And then there's other lawsuits. And then they went around trying to hang it on Guccifer 2.0. He hacked the DNC, and then they tried to hang it on Yevgeny, and then they tried to hang it on Kim.com. This was all the work of James Comey. Now, I've said this before. He's not smart. He's not even clever. Let's remember what just happened. We are seeing an avalanche of stuff coming forward. First off, Goodlate is demanding to see the entire unredacted request to the FISA court to get this Carter Page FISA Court Title I warrant. Because in there, they have to justify why they want it. And that is going to put a lot of people in jail. And they will turn it, they're going to have to turn it over because now they're being told that they're going to impeach Rod Rosenstein if he doesn't turn this stuff over when they demand it, because it is literally national security.
While they're at it, can they whip up some impeachment papers for Jeff Sessions?
Jeff Sessions will quit if they impeach.
Well, that's what he says,
Rosenstein.
but why not just hasten his movement out and get somebody in there who knows how to do the work?
And they want Trump to fire someone.
Oh, and by the way, can they find anybody in Washington that's not a senior executive service indoctrinated MK Ultra enemy of the state?
Jeff Sessions said he got someone outside of Washington, D.C., and John Huber.
He's an SES
He's
too.
SES.
So I want to see somebody outside of Washington, and I don't want to see them affiliated any way with this SES group or Serco or the Crown agents. The list could go on.
Two critical things.
How about a nice attorney from Omaha?
Michael Horowitz, when he found out after his examination, 1.2 pages, what did he come up with? He didn't come up with jack. He recommended that Andrew McCabe might have done something wrong, and then Sessions had to hem and haw, and then say he would. He didn't even say. He let basically an ethics committee, internal ethics committee, fire him. And then what happened? Then John Huber came along, and he said, "No, we have to take somebody down because your investigation is such a sham. It's brought no one to justice. No one's been indicted. No one's been put in jail. It's complete nonsense. You were a complete joke. You need to arrest somebody." So what did they do? They recommended Andrew McCabe for investigation for possible criminal action. He has not been indicted. He has not been charged, and he may never be. So will they go after Comey with his massive leaks that are publicly demonstrated by this? Let's point out one other new development. Christopher Wray found, and he testified this because they asked him a direct question about it, he found 6 CDs and 1 USB memory stick in Comey's office that has the missing 33,000 Hillary Clinton emails on it. Did anybody notice this in the news? Anybody notice this? Hello?
It was on Truth News headlines.
I know. Did the mainstream media... George Papadopoulos is being charged for supposedly wanting to get a copy of those from the Russians. He never did. So, also, remember that the Papadopoulos investigation started in July of 2016. They did not take him into custody until they had, arrested him at the airport 1 year later to question him. Nothing has come of it. The investigation is still open. So therefore, John Brennan's CIA investigation of Donald Trump being in direct collusion with the Russians is still an open case as far as I know. It's just like Andrew McCabe was investigating. There were 4 or 5 separate investigations of Hillary Clinton. None of them went anywhere because they were just walked off the dock by Andrew McCabe, just like he did with the 33,000 missing emails, that were in Comey's office. Just like he did with his wife getting the money from Terry McAuliffe, governor who is on the board of the Clinton Foundation. In other words, Andrew McCabe was being paid off by Hillary Clinton directly, but we told you this. He already got payoffs from Uranium One. He is the person who for 10 years let the ripoff continue. He was the one doing the investigation for 10 years. And it came to 2 people being arrested. 10 years. 10 spies had to be kicked out of the country that were part of that whole scam with 10M that he was investigating in Uranium One. That's it. So what I'm saying is just keep your eyes open, keep your ears very open, because we are seeing huge things happen. And what was in those Comey memos was his exoneration of himself written before his book came out. But he couldn't even get what he said in the book to align with the memos or what he said on television. Someday, James Comey should be in jail. And we can only hope that this new action by the Congress, 10 Congress people demanding that this very group around the dossier be prosecuted, be investigated, and be prosecuted. So we can keep our fingers crossed, Betsy, and hope that we're going to see that some justice is going to come here. But one thing's for sure, it is hysterical to stand back and just laugh because we're all worked up about this, 15 months ago when we were saying it and nobody else was listening, and now it's all coming to pass.